A plan to build 30 miles of linear park in Jacksonville took a big hit after the president's big beautiful bill clawed back what was the largest grant in city history. But project managers say the funding loss is not fatal to the Emerald Trail. And here to give us an update is Ehas. She's the chief executive officer of Groundwork Jacksonville, which is managing the project. Kay, welcome back.
Thank you.
So we actually had you on in March of last year
Mhm.
celebrating this enormous federal grant, $147 million. And that money has been rescinded.
Correct.
That was a vote of Congress after a request from the president. So there's a lot of people worried that this is going to stop or stall progress on the Emerald Trail.
Which I understand they would think that, but it's not. So we are breaking ground on segment 2, Hogan Street, through the core downtown on Thursday. Um, we are about to issue an RFQ to take the Riverside Link to 100% design. So the local option gas tax is going to fully fund segments 3 and 4, so the next two segments.
hmm
And then while we are working on those, we'll be looking for funds to fill the gap for 6, 7, and 8.
So we have a map of the project as it's designed currently, and as we mentioned, this is an extensive park project. It connects 14 historic communities to downtown. It includes um, 16 schools in its footprint, 3 hospitals, 3 colleges, 21 parks, and so for people who are watching our live stream, we are looking at a map that basically is the updated version, most recent version of the Emerald Trail's progress. And we could see, the S line was existing, that is there. There are a number of, green dotted lines that show what's planned. Um, and then there are the ones that are actively under construction. I think it's the ones that are not those that people might have questions about. So there are some delays you'd expect in certain areas. I'm thinking of the Mixontown, Springfield East Side area. Are they going to be seeing delays in when the Emerald Trail arrives?
So Mixon Town is segment 10, which is McCoy's Creek, and
Okay.
that is totally underway and fully funded.
Okay.
Um, it's really segments 6, 7, and 8. So 6 is connecting to McCoy's Creek. It's
Mhm.
the Robinson's Addition neighborhood. 7 is Durkeeville and Newtown. And then 8 is the East Side and Springfield.
Okay, and I'm just gonna say, I mean, those are, historically neglected neighborhoods
Absolutely.
that I think already would say left behind in a lot of construction projects, left behind in consolidation. Um, how do you manage the, perceptions that they're going to be left behind once again?
Well, what I would say is that Groundwork Jacksonville is totally committed to getting the entire Emerald Trail completed. And personally, one of my worries had always been once we get out of downtown, will elected officials be as committed to getting the ones done, 6, 7, and 8 specifically? Um, just again, because it's kind of not in downtown anymore or as close to downtown, even though, as you know, it's very connected to downtown. It needs to be.
Mhm.
So that has always been one of my worries. And I would say that, JTA is our funding partner on the last segments with the gas tax and what was the federal grant, and they're as committed as we are. So in some ways, the federal grant would have had us working on 5 all at the same time, which would have been a really heavy lift. And so this way, the project was moving before we ever had gas tax dollars or federal grant. So we just are committed to continuing to keep moving. And there's plenty of time to secure additional funding to do that. And our goal would be to also start designing segment 6 after we do segment 4 because shovel-ready projects are more likely to get federal and state funding.
Tell us what happened to this grant. What was it about the language of the grant that caught the attention of the federal government? And w- why was it that this grant, which was granted a couple of years ago, wasn't ever delivered and was in a position to be clawed back?
There were, I think, maybe over 100 It was the Neighborhood Access Equity Grant was the name. And so I believe it had a lot to do with the current administration's perspective on DEI. Um, about 25 of them were approved by the Biden administration, and those continued to get funded, but the majority of them um, were rescinded. And that's a process that, you send in your information to the federal highway. They then have to review it, comment back. And so it was, I think, a timing issue.
You don't I mean, I think that there has been some reporting from our colleagues at Action News that have suggested that JTA somehow dropped the ball by not getting this grant signed and finalized. Do you find fault with the fact that it wasn't sort of signed and finalized and perhaps therefore I think the reporting has been perhaps maybe more vulnerable to being rescinded?
What I would say is that Groundwork Jacksonville is not an expert on federal transportation grants. So I don't feel like I can speak to that really.
Mhm. Um,
I just think it's a lengthier process than maybe typical grants are. But that's a question for JTA.
Okay, very good. And so this, you said is it's going to be an ongoing effort to find funding. There is this gas tax that is going to fund it as it continues, and there are, groundbreakings and projects in the works that lie ahead. Who are you going to be leaning on for funding? Where do you turn? Is it the community? Is it foundations? Is it the local government?
So construction of those trail segments happen to be the longest trail segments in the system, and so they're going to be more expensive. Um, Private funding is not going to cover that because you're talking about, I don't know, maybe $120 million. So I think we are going to be looking at federal funding. Congressman Rutherford's on record that he believes federal money is important for the project, but it may just come in smaller tranches. So we're going to be working with them. I recently toured Congressman Bean's aide, and they're all totally committed to getting the project
Yeah, I
done.
mean, it's worth noting, the when this grant was announced, when we spoke to you about it, there was this ribbon cutting ceremony, and it had all of the muckety mucks, and
Yeah.
including Congressman John Rutherford, who voted for this rescission, but obviously supported the project. We can see a picture if you're watching our live stream right now, where you have Councilmember Ron Salem, Mayor Donna Deegan, you're there, Councilmember Carlucci Jr. and Congressman John Rutherford. And so I guess he's supportive of the project, but still voted to rescind the money.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the explanation that you've gotten about that?
Well, I didn't speak to him personally about why he voted against that, but I mean, that bill is bigger than the Emerald Trail.
Sure. Yeah, it includes a lot more.
Yeah.
All right. So there is an event that's coming up that is celebrating the S line, right? It is a 5K, 10K, 1 mile. It's all the sorts of
It's a
things.
1, 5K, and 10K, so it's
Okay.
it's something for everyone. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but somebody asked if they could bring their dog, and I said, as long as we do that as long as they're on a leash
Uh-huh.
and don't poop on the trail,
Yes, please.
right? Bring your bags. But yeah, it is. So ViStar Credit Union, Brian Wolfberg's a runner. And so when we first started talking to them and meeting with them, he's like, "What about a race?"
Oh.
And so it is really our signature event, and it's awesome because it brings out a ton of people to celebrate it. So it's going to be both the Lavilla Link and the S Line Rail Trail.
And it's
Those are the two,
Saturday.
and it's this Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if people they can still sign up.
they can still sign up.
Where do they go to do that? Is that a Groundworks thing or is that a ViStar thing? Oh, sure.
Firstplacesports.com
Of course. First
slash
place.
races
All
slash
right.
Emerald Trail.
Well, they handle all the races, so that's no surprise. Kate Ehas, thanks a lot for coming on today. Appreciate the update and good luck with everything.
You're welcome.